another one of another guest I'm excited about. But I have two guests today. So I'm very, very excited. We have the owners of Cadena Collective, Alejandra and Mabel Aguirre. How are you ladies today?
Good, good. In
Good.
the middle of kicking off holiday season, so trying to, push through.
Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. I'm so excited. I actually found these wonderful women off of TikTok.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing like all of the like different looks that you have, and we'll get into all of that. But I was just like, let me reach out. I got to reach out. I want to hear what their story is because I really love the stuff that you are putting out. And it's very
Yeah.
creative, and just the you know the culture obviously is so obviously your collections are very heavily influenced by
Yeah.
being Mexican, and I love that. So I do want to get into all of that. Pero before we get into all that, before we get into the chisme, we start with the wine. So are you guys, I don't know if you guys are partaking in wine today. Are you guys drinking any? It's Friday and are you guys
I
in
know.
Miami?
I'm in
Yeah.
Miami. My sister is in
I'm in
San
San
Antonio.
Antonio.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
in San Antonio. Okay,
I'm
so
in San Antonio.
it's drinking time and both play happy hour. You're
Yeah.
both in happy hour time. Are you guys partaking today or no?
I wish I was, but no, I'm actually drinking a highball energy drink because for me, I still have a couple more hours to put in for work, and if I drink wine, I will probably go take a nap.
You're like, I'm
Um,
done.
but normally I do like to drink a nice Cabernet.
Oh, well, girl, I have some good Cabernets for you.
That is my choice of wine that I enjoy.
And Mabel, how about you?
I had to grab something really quick, and the only thing available to me was some Prosecco, which is also nice. I, like my sister, like Cabernet, but she actually got me hooked on Prosecco. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and so I'm kind of the opposite. I have packed on the caffeine, but I still have a lot of work to go, and I need a little incentive, so I need to take a sip here and there.
I like that incentive. That's how I work.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if
you know what?
people,
I don't know what it is about Prosecco, but Prosecco gets me in like a creative mood. It allows me to like start like writing and like
it's the
I don't
bubbles.
know. I don't know. Is it the bubbles? I don't, but there's something about it
Yes.
that just it doesn't quite get me focused, but it does allow me to be a little more creative. Maybe if I'm planning
Mm-hmm.
out content, campaigns, if I'm filming TikTok videos, Prosecco is like, I don't know, it just works.
So for people that are
That's why she got
unaware,
me hooked on it.
that's how she got you. She's like, it helps with the creative juices, and you're like, okay, I'm on. I'm in it. Well, salud, ladies. So you ready?
Cheers.
That's my penny sound effect.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I am drinking an Aldina Vineyards Chardonnay, which I'm not normally a Chardonnay person because I'm not normally a Chardonnay person if they're oak age, if they're oak barrel age, because it gets heavier, it has that buttery or caramely flavor. I'm not a fan of those types of like butter caramel type of
Hmm.
flavors. So this one is still aged, still barrel aged, which brings out more of the
Mm.
citrus notes, and it's a lot
Mm.
lighter and everything. And normally I would go for a red right now, but it was the last glass of this bottle, so I was like, let me finish it off. So
It's meant to be.
yeah, that's what I did. But just so people know, prosecco means it's an Italian wine. It's an Italian sparkling wine. If it's cava, it's a Spanish Italian wine, or it's a Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
not Spanish Italian. It's a Spanish sparkling wine, and obviously champagne has to come from the French region of Champagne.
Hmm.
But they're all very different. They're all made very similarly with different grapes, but obviously in different countries. So those are the regions that they're
Name.
named after. So in case people are like, well, what's the difference between them? Just a little thing. Let me tell people about Cadena Collective. So what you sent me is cadena is the Spanish word for chain. It is our belief that women are not bound by societal chains or expectations of the roles they should play in the modern age. When women unite like chains, they are stronger, powerful, and more resilient. I already love that. Cadena also happens to be the street name of the home in Mexico in which we took our first steps and the home we left at the age of 6 and 8 years old when their mother immigrated. When their mother, and I'm transitioning from different tenses, so apologies, immigrated to the United States. Our name is a symbol of how our life has changed and how moving from Calle Cadena in the United States has given us a world of opportunities. We want to share that opportunity with women who may feel bound by the expectations their family, friends, or society has placed on them. Working women, artisans, and sharing their talents is a revolution of love, empowerment, and the journey towards self realization. Wow, talk about a like mission statement. That
I
is
think
so powerful.
we were probably drinking Prosecco when we came up with that.
I love that because, first of all, that just shares so much about why you started Cadena Collective. Because to be able to share and the love that you have for Mexico, the love that you have for your family, the love that you have for obviously fashion. And I agree with you in regards to like there is so much societal expectations, particularly when you're Latina, right?
Yeah.
Like of when you should get married, when you should have kids. I mean, I'm full on for that because I just turned 44 and I've never been married and I don't have any kids. So, I know there's so much judgment in regards to who I am and why aren't I married? Why don't
Yeah.
I have kids? Like all of those things being Latina, like that just comes with it. Um do you guys still feel like those? Oh my gosh, just so many questions I have. And I have such like a thing that I normally keep, but now like just reading this, like I have like 50 million more questions that have come into my head. So let me just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
You really paint a picture in like in regards to your the bio that you have together about moving from Mexico to Dallas. Tell me about because you were who's older, Mabel or Mabel?
Mabel.
Okay, so both of you're still at an age where you can still obviously remember, I'm sure, a lot of your childhood being six and
Oh,
eight years
yeah.
old. So tell me about those that childhood in Mexico prior to moving to Dallas and the things that you remember and hold on to the most.
Mm.
This is about to turn into a therapy
Girl,
session.
I need scotch for this. Um, oh man. I, I think a better question would be what don't I remember? Um, a lot. I I think that the thing that's stuck with me the most is um having to step into a role that I didn't know I had to step into as the bigger sister. I think that whether it was intended for me to not, or for me or not, I felt the necessity to step in and um, be a comforter of sorts for my mom, um, obviously for my sister, and just kind of everyone. And I think you see that within the community. We have a lot of amazing women in our family, um, but just how we lived in our house and how it was set up. I just remember feeling a need from a very young age to be a protector, and I think that's kind of intuitively something that all Latinx people, specifically women, kind of carry and hold on to. But I do remember I was very, very happy because there's just like a sense of freedom with that responsibility, which is weird because it kind of contradicts each other
Mm-hmm.
in a way. But um, I don't know. I just remember the longing to feel whole because my dad wasn't there. Um, I remember, I don't know, I remember a lot. You're like my sister said, you're like making this into therapy. Um, but it, I just there's so many happy memories of our childhood, you know. It's simple compared to here. There's you could drop into any tia's house unannounced. You'd get fed. Um, you'd get a hug. It just was wholesome and warm and colorful and alive and the antithesis of what life turned into when we crossed the border on that fateful day, you know, when we came here. But that was the
Yeah.
payoff to be together with our dad. And um, looking back, it was worth it. And it's what has helped mold our mission statement on Cadena because we have walked the path of being bicultural and we know and we remember. Um, so we know that we're not alone and that our journey is not, you know, unique to us. There's other people that can relate to it. And so,
And
yeah.
things that I don't think we realized probably until this year, in reflecting, why we built Cadena and the way it's shaped. A big portion of what shaped us in Mexico was the people that were surrounding us. And like my sister said, my dad wasn't present, he wasn't living there. And so the people we were surrounded were obviously my mom, our grandmother, and three aunts, all women, and my grandfather, who was not present really at all. But everybody else, they were women. We were living with five other women who would, let us know everything about, come here, play here, go there, do, follow this rule, don't do that, behave this way, déjate peino, let me play with you. And so a lot of our views on like women and how strong they are came from everybody who was helping us, to help us grow up and who was shaping us. And that's not something that's not something I realized that had such a profound effect on me until probably this year, where I was like, oh shoot, like wait, like for like very fundamental years of our life, it was all women that we grew up with, and my dad would
Mm-hmm.
visit, when he could.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, eran mujeres. And then even on my mom's side, it was also because we were living with my dad's side. It was also women who, for the most part, were always the protectors who were kind of giving us that guidance. And so that is a big part of our memories in Mexico, other than the vibrant colors, the festivities, the freedom to kind of enjoy life a little more. Maybe it felt that
Yeah.
way at a young age, probably because we also didn't have responsibilities, right? Um, but there was also that longing to be an entire unit with our dad. So,
So, Mabel, I want to go back to something that you kind of said, and I loved
mhm.
the adjectives that you were using talking about your youth. Both of you, like it was colorful and it was lively, and it's. I think people like there's definitely like a difference because even though I didn't grow up in Mexico, like I understand what you mean because I think it's just a very cultural thing. Obviously, your culture is very very deeply ingrained. When you got because you guys moved to Dallas from Mexico.
Mhm.
What did you were you able to find a similar community? What part of Dallas did you guys live in, by the way?
In
Pleasant Grove.
Pleasant Grove, in
Okay,
South
okay.
Dallas.
I lived in
Um,
Dallas for 15 years.
yeah,
So, yeah. So
yeah,
when I saw Dallas, I was like, "Oh, hey."
Yeah.
I'm actually from San Diego. That's where I grew up and that's where I'm at now, but I just moved back from Dallas about almost 5 years ago. And I was there for 15 years and I still go back. But um were you able to find the same kind of connection when you moved to Dallas, or was that a struggle moving?
I feel like it was a struggle for a long time. Um, to be honest, it still feels like that sometimes. Um, because there's just no comparison. Um, but especially when we came here, it was a complete culture shock. I, besides the language, obviously, um, everything else just kind of seemed dark and wary and ominous at times and heavy. Um, and it might have been also because we didn't really have a chance to sort of go back to our old ways. Leaving meant leaving a part of ourselves because we had to grow up in many ways. So we eventually started the immigration process, and I learned English very quickly, which meant that I helped translate, which meant that I helped translate with paperwork and calls and all of these things. So it was different. 1,000% it was different. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's you kind of like skip some sort of childhood phase and then went into we morphed into something else, you know, that's probably unique to an immigrant
Absolutely.
family.
Alejandra, did you feel the same way? Like it was just,
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I think I slept with my aunt's picture under my pillow for months after we came to the US because it was like a way of staying close to, you know, someone who I loved, admired, and missed. And then the whole process, I think I cried, I don't know, for days right when I got dropped off in kinder. Um, it just so many like different little experiences that growing up Mexican at that, at the time Mexican American, um, it was just you, I didn't quite understand,
mm-hmm.
right? Like getting forced to ask to go to the restroom in English. And I was like, I don't know. I just need to go to the restroom. Things like that that were, you'd think they're not a big deal, but at the time it's very traumatizing as a child because all you want is like things that you would are very normal that are not, that shouldn't be difficult. So there were, um, como se dice, like there were hurdles we had to kind of jump through because of our identity. Um, so yeah, it was really, really hard. It
Yeah.
still is. It's not until Cadena that I really was able to reclaim my identity. Not to reclaim it, but to fully claim it.
Yeah.
Because, sure, like at first it was kinder and elementary school and making new friends and not having family around. And then it morphed into figuring out, what a good school was to be an A student. And then it morphed into trying to apply to college and being first gen. And then it applied to being a working professional and what that looks like, what you look like in a working professional setting. And it wasn't until we built Cadena that I was like, I don't have to pretend to be anything else. I don't have to work towards anything else. Like, yes, it's a lot of work to build a business, but there's no longer I'm not having to jump through hurdles around my identity. I can show up authentically as who I am, and it almost stripped that that like those challenges that are very similar from being a child to like applying to college because I can find similarities through all of them, thread them. Um, and it's not till Cadena that. And so now it's like passing the baton, like, okay, cool, I get it. I get, how I can kind of overcome my hurdles, and so can you. And it's bringing people on board to do it through tools like the clothing, the jewelry, things like that. That's really what our products do. It's not to
Yeah.
look pretty all the time.
I find it really interesting that you were both like, and Mabel, you're nodding as Alejandra was like sharing some of these things in regards to not being able to not being able to fully claim your whole self until Cadena.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel like? It's so interesting to me because like anybody that's from Dallas, right, would think, oh well, they grew up in Pleasant Grove. Like Pleasant Grove
Mm-hmm.
is a highly Latino area, and
Mm-hmm.
you would think that because I have a lot of friends that grew up in Pleasant Grove as well, and but also Pleasant Grove is a very low income area,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I could already hear some people thinking like, well, if that's a highly Latino area, why wouldn't they feel accepted? Why wouldn't they feel like they? But I don't think people understand the push and pull of the immigrant experience versus people who already live here and who don't have to go through that. Like if you're going through the whole immigration process, that's adding another layer of pressure to, I would assume, your entire family. Did you guys like feel that whole, did you feel that as you were growing up?
As far as
Yes.
immigration, I think, yeah, Mabel can speak to that because just to backtrack a little bit, we have an interesting experience in that my dad was an immigrant worker. So I was actually born in Idaho, which is really random. And so neither my sister or I remember that experience because it was very short lived. But you know, so my sister did have to go through an immigration process, whereas I did not. But I personally do remember crossing the border with my mom and my sister the second time and understanding the fear that she had because even though I, had documents at the time, my sister and my mom did not. So so yeah, it became part of my experience through like como se dice, living vicariously through someone. I was able to kind of understand the fear,
Hmm.
even though I myself, you know, wasn't facing that.
Were you considered, my were you considered a dreamer at that time? Because I've had actual dreamers on here, um
Hmm.
and talking about coming as a young child, undocumented, still
Hmm.
undocumented, going like still kind of almost living in this paralyzed fear, right? But you actually went through the process and everything. So how old were you before how old were you when you started the process, and how long did that take to like go through? Because I know it's not an easy nor short process.
So we didn't cross legally when we did. Um, I won't get into the details of how that worked, but we didn't start the process till maybe, I think, 2 years after we were here,
Hmm.
maybe a year after we got to Dallas. And then that process took years. We didn't get a residency till 2000. And then it wasn't until my dad became a citizen in 2008 that I went through another process to become a citizen myself because I was under the age of 18. Um, so my dad did all the hard work for us. He did the heavy lifting um, as far as our road to citizenship. But going back to what Ale said, that fear is almost tangible. So I remember the day we left, it was raining. And I
Mm-hmm.
was so sad because it was almost like the preface of what our life was going to be like from now on, you know?
Hmm.
And I feel like that fear fueled us a lot because part of that fear stems from you cannot appear to be to this because then you'll get caught and then this won't work out for us. So then that fear turned into, well, we have to assimilate to this identity in order to be able to pass successfully. And I think that that kind of stayed with us because then we had to assimilate to this new identity. Uh, because being bicultural does mean you're adding layers to your identity. And then you kind of like lost in between until you figure out where exactly you belong. And like you mentioned in Pleasant Grove, yeah, you would think that you wouldn't have issues with that. But especially with the pressures of trying to be successful in academia and like trying to push forth and trying to set all these goals, graduating from high school without getting pregnant, graduating from college. Oh, can you get this scholarship? Can you keep going and going? There's really no limit because you're setting the limit because your parents didn't have that opportunity. So it's kind of up to you. And they pass you this ginormous torch, and you're kind of like not trying to burn yourself, but you're trying to figure out how to do it all by holding it and carrying it somewhere, and you don't even know where. And all the while, you're trying to figure out where you fit in. And so for me personally, I don't fit a lot of the boxes. Like I don't check some of the boxes of what someone would consider um, uh, a Mexican one would look like. I don't have the beautiful brown skin like my sister does. I don't have curly, my, like we share different features. And so my journey involved, I felt like I didn't look Mexican enough, and at times I was told I didn't look Mexican enough, and that hurt me deeply because there was nothing more that I wanted to do than wear my culture on
She's
my sleeve, so to speak, and I couldn't. I didn't even look like it. And so for a long time, I didn't even feel okay wearing bright colors or some of the traditional things that we have because I felt like I was going to get made fun of or talked down to. And it made me feel some type of way. And I'm still going through this. My sister and I always talk about it because we have comments on our some of our videos and some of our things. And so part of why sometimes I'm not as um, uh, what's deliberate about showing my face is because sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I am a good face to represent this, even though I should and I am. But it's
yeah.
crazy because even at my age and at this point of my journey, I'm still trying to get out of that because there's so many people uh, in my that feel like me probably that are not this or they're to this. Um, and so for me, that journey in Cadena, it's been really interesting because it is making me realize like regardless of where you come from, what you look like, at what point you are in your life, that you're reclaiming parts of your identity that are tied to your roots and your culture. It's okay. And that you can make it your own, but that fear still lingers.
Yeah.
So
It
it's
makes me so
tough.
sad to hear you say like you don't put yourself forward because you feel like people have told you don't look Mexican enough. And I think that's been such a like that's been something I've been touching on a lot in regards to I don't know if you've seen and I've mentioned it several times on different episodes. Um this newest generation, this Gen Z, and they've come up with this no sabo kid type
Mm,
of and it irritates the hell out of me
mm,
because I'm like, who are you? I'm sorry, you're 16, 20 years old. You don't know life. You don't know you don't know what the experience is. You don't know what anybody's experience is to call them a no sabo kid or to say that they're not enough. Um, I've gone through that in my own different journey, right, of being second gen and my parents made wanted us to be English first because they used to get in trouble for speaking Spanish.
mm,
So our experience was very different in regards to like they didn't want us to experience what they experienced. But then I've like part of me is like felt like I lost something with that. And I've grown up like I've as I've grown up, I've learned Spanish. My Spanish is still not perfect, but I'm constantly learning and 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 wanting to just be able to claim something else, I guess, like claim more of me, almost like I, when you guys were saying, be able to claim more of who I am in
yeah.
a very different, but very similar, but also a very different way than you
Mm,
guys have done. So it pains me. Like I could physically feel that pain when you say that because so many people have gone through that. So many
mm-hmm.
people have been told they're not enough
Yeah.
or being asked to be somebody else. Um, and it just really hurts me to hear that. So I just want you to know, like, I think you're amazing. I think what
Thank
you and your
you.
sister are doing are amazing. You're gonna make me tear up. Because I'm like
Don't.
Yeah,
watching you
that too.
guys. Let's do the
Oh.
fanning of the eyes. But it is. I mean, a lot of people go through those things. And
Mm,
I just like I feel like I said I feel your pain like when you say that. And I just think,
yeah.
guy, like so many people go through that. And why can't we instead of like tearing each other down? Like I love everything that you guys do with what you're doing with Cadena is really trying to uplift people. You even say that in your whole in your whole bio in your whole mission statement. So I want to get to like where your love, because we could go down this road right now. But I really want to go to where your love of fashion and all of that came from, because there actually has to be a love behind that in order to do all of this. Obviously, you love your culture, you love where you come from, but even beyond that, there has to be a love for clothing and for fashion and everything. Like, where did that get started?
I don't know. As a kid, I used to wear really funky outfits, and I thought they were cool, and I didn't care. And I honestly, I think it ties into what y'all were just talking about, the experience of not feeling enough, right? So my experience was very similar growing up because I was compared to my sister, and so in a very um, in a culture that is, you know, and that is very, ¿cómo se dice? It's colorism, right? It was always like, ay, también la morenita es tu hija also, right? And so for me, my thing became not to retract from what I was being told, but to show up boldly and be like, yeah, okay, here I am. And so my way of finding the acceptance or love was to kind of like show up and not really give a damn and wear whatever I wanted, try to be a really good student. That was my way of getting attention. And so that's really how it has just evolved. Because yeah, I mean, for a long time it was like, yeah, I was morenita and the frizzy hair and all these things, but instead of I just showed up in a different way because I think it manifests for all of us in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all acceptable. And at times I think that that's that's why I can show up on videos and be like, I don't care. Tell me I have a pimple on my face. I don't care because I have built that external shell. Doesn't mean it doesn't deeply hurt. It's just the way that I cope with it by
Mm-hmm.
being like, I'm gonna do it even more. I'm gonna wear even more color. I'm gonna be even more provocative with whatever you're saying I shouldn't wear. Because it's my way of like being like, whatever. So I think that's where it comes from. And then after a while, it just snowballed into people being like, oh, what you do, what you wear is cool, or whatever it is. And then I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And so
You're like,
it just
I
builds on
know.
it. Yeah. But I was listening to, I don't even know what I was listening to, but they were talking about fashion and about what is actually, it was the podcast by Sam Sanders
Mm-hmm.
from NPR. They were talking about the definition of tacky and what is considered tacky and what's not considered tacky, and how affluent, rich white people maybe are able to define what's tacky and what's not tacky, right? Even though, because we might perceive them to be educated. Whereas sometimes you might meet someone and be like, that's actually really tacky. And so as I was listening to it, I was like, wow, I don't think we ever allow ourselves to be trendsetters because we might not perceive ourselves to be the most educated or the most whatever, fill in the blank. And so when I show up with my videos, I almost want to give everybody permission to create their own rules and define what their tacky or not tacky is, right? Like, not to wait for the Instagram influencers to tell you what to shop for. That
Or
you
how
already
your
have it
hair
in your,
should be. Oh,
yeah, like you already have it in your closet. You literally already have it in your culture. You grew up with it. Like, that is not tacky. Like, go for it, wear it.
mm-hmm.
And that, yeah, like I thought it was really interesting because I was like, yeah, that's really interesting. I think we push our traditional wear aside because it's not perceived as high quality by whoever, you know, whoever's trend setting or we think is the trendsetter. And that, yeah, that's really where it comes from.
I was the opposite. I was a light skinned girl with big hair. Like you see, I have curly
Yeah,
hair with big hair. And so I would use big, giant earrings all the time.
yeah.
So I became like that one who everybody knew. I met with some friends who I've known since elementary school a couple weeks ago. And one of them saw me from behind. I haven't seen her in like 25 years. And she saw me from behind and she's like, Jessica. She recognized my hair. Like,
Oh my
that's
gosh,
what she
that's
she didn't
hilarious.
even see my face yet. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Jessica." And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "I mean, I knew it was your hair."
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, and I think my sister did that through middle school too. Her fashion sense leaned into Mexican culture, and that was her way of like leaning into the culture. But it might have been perceived as tacky at the time, and now it's popular. The hoops, the lip liner, the even the ¿cómo se llama? Like
The
the
headbands.
not the headbands. Like you would do your hair and split
Oh
it
my
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
gosh.
and would have like
I used
Oh
to do
yeah, yeah.
this.
Like the
like
tendrils, tendrils.
yes, but
Yes.
that's my point. Like my sister is a trendsetter. Did she
Mm.
know it at the time? No,
Oh,
but
I should show you some pictures of what I used to wear.
and and you and you were probably a trendsetter too, and that's the point of like that's what I'm trying to get at with my videos or and I say my because I mostly do the videos. My
Yeah.
sister, I haven't gotten her to do them yet, but she will. But that's the point that we are trendsetters and we have been and we will continue to be the same way that Black women are huge trendsetters and have been for a really
Oh
long
yeah.
time. And it's not until white women do it that it's considered cool, right? So flowers to Black women who have been trendsetters for all of us. And so that's what I'm trying to get at with our clothing and with our fashion that your coolness is already in your closet and you probably, you know, grew up with it. Like the gold esclava,
Yeah.
getting your
Oh well,
ears
I mean, I
pierced
was about to
at
say getting your ears pierced at like
like
months,
all of
years
that,
old.
all of that, all of that. We've been cool for a long time and we have been
Okay.
cool. It's about embracing it now and
I
reclaiming
saw
that.
I saw a TikTok where I don't remember the ethnicity of the person, but they took their like baby, to get their ears pierced, and some people were like,
Hmm.
"Oh my gosh, how could you do that?" And then all like the Latinas were like, you obviously don't know
Yeah.
Latino culture.
No.
We all get
You
our
know,
ears pierced at like a couple months old."
they're all lopsided because your grandma did it with like a needle and alcohol and like one's like down in your earlobe, the other one's a little higher. Listen, I'm not saying that people should be ear piercing their kids' earlobes in their homes, but that's the way it was done before. And
Yeah. I think I don't know if my mom took me somewhere, but yeah, mine have been pierced since I was like probably before I was 1 years old, and
oh
these
yeah,
holes will never close up ever, which I appreciate because girl, I love my hoops. That's
yeah.
for
I mean, that's
sure.
you had to show up with earrings to your baptism, right? Like if not, like
Yes. Don't
are
you feel
you?
naked now with you if you don't have like right now?
Oh
I
yeah,
took them off because I was doing something and I kept hitting it, and I took it out, and now even right now I feel so, and I have headphones on, and I
yeah.
feel so naked without my hoops.
Hmm.
Like even if I wear a baseball hat, I have to wear hoops because then I feel like I'm look like a boy if I don't
Yeah,
wear my hoops. It's so silly.
yeah, all the time.
Ooh, there. See, my dad's like showing me her hoops right now. So, what was your guys's? Because obviously you did something else prior to Cadena Collective. Like you had other work experience, you had other things. What was your individual past that brought you together to start this?
So I right after high school I went to college. And then after college I went right into the workforce. And I was in government and politics. So I was in a very stuffy field. Um, and I
And
enjoyed
I would
it for
imagine
what
it
it
was something
was.
that you probably didn't, you really felt like you couldn't express yourself being in that type of
Yeah.
thing, right?
I mean, the reason I went into it is because I came from more of an activist background. We did um, a lot of work around the Dream Act back when it was first introduced and was trying to get passed. And unfortunately, you know, it just didn't go the way we hoped, and it was years of that. And I wanted to use kind of that to have the same kind of fighting spirit in the work that I would eventually do. And so I felt politics and government would be the way to go. Unfortunately, it just things don't get done, and I was too impatient to kind of continue on that career path, and it was draining, and it's gotten worse over years. And so then Cadena kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest, and so we embarked on this journey without expecting it, and here we are.
Mabel, what was your path to Cadena?
Um, so I was in the military, and my sister and I unknowingly left both of those paths on the same day. Um, we took a trip, we came back, and there was this opportunity that presented itself, um, where we could help a friend. Um, it started because I was trying to feel like I was doing something, and I was like, I like to keep myself busy. And there's a piece of some vintage pieces of clothing that I was trying to sell, and I found this site. And Ale, my sister, one of her friends, she has some earrings, and she was like, she was just showing them to my sister, and Ale can probably speak to this story. But my sister was like, you could sell these. They're beautiful, they're stunning. And she just didn't know because she, doesn't have a way with the platform or any of that. And so I didn't really think anything of it. My sister's a mastermind. Um, I think what my sister saw is beautiful, and is all of just, it was more than beauty for my sister. It was more than just selling something. Um, and what turned into me maybe wanting to sell like something just because I was trying to, I don't know, organize and clean and keep myself busy, turned into this whole other thing. And um, my whole idea was short lived, and my sister quickly brought on this idea of cadena, and she really took off. I started school and she took off. And Lucina is the maker of the earrings. Her talent knows no bounds. There was literally just, it was like my sister kind of gave her permission, which is weird to say because she doesn't need permission. She's an artist. But it's weird because as women, we're taught to be be homemakers, especially in that previous generation. And so when my sister was like, there are all of these opportunities, there's no limits, let me do something. Because my sister was also like, she had her job, we're both like, it was a blank slate. And so when that happened, it just kind of took off. And when we realized that we were making a positive impact and we were creating waves among the people that were around us, we were like, this is badass. And then everything else kind of happened organically. We carry some candles. I'm actually, one is lit, so I won't hold it. But we carry some candles, and they are because of a family, like our friend, our childhood friend, that's also from Pleasant Grove. She joined the collective. It just all happened organically, and it literally kind of happened in like a chain event. Like it was just a chain of reaction. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it just kind of took off. And there was something that Ale and I experienced through our trip, and it kind of was prophetic in a way. And so I think my sister and I were kind of just open. I think that at the time where all of this happened, it happened when it needed to happen. My sister and I were both open. My sister just, I don't know if that girl was drinking Prosecco every day, but like she literally, like her ideas, her spirit when it came to being an entrepreneur and like literally just figuring it out, building a website, like this is literally my sister laid the foundation for Cadena. And
But
I
like,
just was like, can I help you? How can
no,
I help
no,
you? Let's
no.
do it.
Let's backtrack on this a little bit because I don't think she's even answering your question, which is what were you doing before this? And she was actually in a
Wait, this you could totally
military.
tell your sisters that I love it.
She was, yeah, she was in the Air Force for 10 years, and she was highly ranked, highly recognized. I mean, it was a real struggle to get out, right? And so that in itself became an identity struggle for her as a Latina getting out of the military to pursue something different. So when we say we built Cadena, it wasn't like, let's make a business and then it was successful. It still took probably a year and a half for both her and I to accept this new journey that we were going to be, and to almost accept this like blessing to come into our life. So there was still a lot of work that she and I had to do because I had my, struggles with where the work that I'd been doing and my identity around that. And she had her own struggles around her work, and then choosing to go to school, which she's going to graduate this semester. Like we're
Congratulations.
which is crazy. Like she's running, she's helping to run, we're both running this business, but she's in school. Like she's running a whole ass business and finishing school. And so I don't think she gives herself enough credit for what she was doing before, making, coming to that fork in the road and deciding to leave it behind. Even though it was comfortable, it was safe in terms of payment and on, and job security. It was not safe in terms of
The one
maybe what
place
she was
that there is
doing.
actually job security is the
Correct.
military, right?
Correct. And, even then, there was a lot of shiny objects that she was being shown. And so she was courageous enough to go in a different path. And, here we are now. And she's about to graduate, have her bachelor's, probably pursue a higher degree, and has a full business. Um, so what she and I were doing before, um, definitely helped the work that we're doing now. But they're completely different than
Yeah.
what
Well,
we're doing now.
Alejandra, thank you for keeping my veil honest because
Yeah.
you could tell she's very much who just like, okay, yeah, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
I feel like what you were saying earlier kind of has seeped into everything in
Mhm.
regards to like not wanting to outshine, not wanting to toot your own horn.
Mhm.
Girl, toot that horn. You gotta
Mhm.
like own it.
And
You're a
and it's
badass.
I think
You
because
know,
I have completely have focused on the business, and she's had to divide her attention into her school and just different parts of her life. My process of accepting, not accepting, of reclaiming my identity and like going through this process is like a couple steps ahead of her. And I'm watching her in like in a very inception kind of way, where I'm watching myself where I was a couple steps behind. And so watching her pause on tooting her own horn is like, wait, I was there. Come on, like, let's go. Like, you got this. I can see it.
Yeah. I can see it
it's
too.
it's interesting because it's like, so going through the military just provided like another little extra dash of identity panic, because that's a whole different culture in itself,
Yeah.
and that just provided just a whole like curveball of just other issues and things. And I don't know. Girl, I'm still going to therapy for that whole decade of my life. So, I mean, I think it's difficult. I don't know. I also in my last part of my career, we're very much instilled with the ideal of being a quiet professional, and I was surrounded with like the most badass people, men and women alike, like people that get made um, into movies. And so I always just, I don't know, I just, I love being in the background and being able to execute my job and knowing that something is getting done. And um, I am terrible at giving myself a pat on the back, and that's something I'm trying to work on. And
And I
when it
think a
comes
lot of it has to
to
do with
stepping
being the
into the,
oldest too, because I'm the oldest of three, and it took me
yeah,
like it's like
probably.
ingrained that you're taking care of everybody else. Even though my
Mhm.
mom didn't work when we were growing up, we were in a very fortunate position that it was mostly my dad, and but there was still things that I constantly had to help with, and you're not supposed to expect a pat on the back for doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? That was almost like how I feel like a lot of when you're the oldest and when you're that's just expected. Don't expect a good job. No, 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 that's expected of you. So it's almost like it's taken me a long time to be like, no, I deserve, like, even now at 44 years old, I do something and I sometimes, as extroverted as I am, and as I want to meet people and I want to hear stories and I want to, like, know everything about everybody, but at the same time, when that spotlight is on me, I tend to to kind of peel back, and I get very like, no, let's talk about somebody else. Let's talk about somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that tends to happen with a lot of the oldest children. Like we want to excel, but we don't, but we want to push everybody in front of us type of thing, which
Mm-hmm.
sounds weird. The fact that I have a podcast and right
Yeah.
that,
It.
but
Yeah.
it's true. But the podcast isn't about me. It's about all of these stories and all of these other people that I think are truly amazing.
Mhm.
So I relate to you on that, and I
Yeah.
think that's part of it.
Yeah. It's weird. And I'm supposed to be a Leo, you know? Like I'm supposed to want the and I think we all have that in us. Like there's one of our friends put up a post sharing Cynthia from Scene Photos, amazing photographer. Check her out. Um, she said something like, "You want to be in the spotlight, but you don't want it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just like maybe a little bit, but like you're like let me push myself back again."
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Because then when you get it, you feel uncomfortable and queasy. That's how I am. I feel like I'm introverted with extroverted qualities, and I be in those roles, and I love meeting strangers, and I love having conversations, and I love elevating those people. But yeah, I think we need to work on it. And maybe it is an older child thing. Even though I feel like in many ways Ale was my older sister for a very long time. She's a little bit more level-headed than me. Um, I don't know. I'm working on it. But Cadena has been kind of uh I don't know if I'm gonna say this word right, like rehabilitative in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally, um, very therapeutic. And so I think that that's why we want to share with people, and we want it to be more than a place where you shop for things, tangible things. When COVID hit, we used to have like little virtual sessions. We had a few virtual sessions, and they were amazing because I feel like we've created some small community in the virtual world, and I think there's more of us than we realize.
So let me ask you guys in regards to Cadena Collective, in regards to when you say collective, is it you you are providing a space for all of these people to be, it's a basic, is it basically like a platform that you've provided for people to be able to sell, or is it things that you guys are like how are you curating them yourselves? How did, like, kind of explain how it works, cuz first of all, um the stuff is fire. I every
Thank
time,
you.
well, that Ale, the things that you were posting on TikTok, that's what got me like
Mm.
interested. I was seeing them, and I'm not gonna lie, I also have a panza, and I was like, that looks cute on her, but I don't want my panza being all out. So
No,
tell me how
thank
you
you.
guys like create, like, are these things that you work with people and saying like this is what we want, and then they create them for you, or is it things that you find and then you're like, we want you on our platform? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, I mean it's shifted a little bit, but when we first started, like Mabel said, when we started working with the jewelry designer, I thought her jewelry was beautiful. My sister thought it was beautiful, and so immediately in my head it was like, well, you have the talent, and we have the ability to, figure out the platform, figure out anything else that needs to happen to make, to grow this. Um, and then when other businesses came on board, I realized that that was kind of what was needed, that there was no one really servicing like tiny, very mini up and coming businesses, and that there was a opportunity gap for someone to come in and support a business and developing them. And so it did start as a consignment model where businesses would join us, and then they would get a percentage of the sales, and we would get a percentage of the sales, and then we would pay out at the end of the month. And then it kind of snowballed into really leaning into our culture and working with different businesses in Mexico. And the reality is that some businesses cannot work a consignment model. They're like, no, sorry, I can't send you my products and then hope that you sell them. And so it did shift a little bit into having two models, one of them being a consignment model where we still sell your products and take a percentage of it. But with that comes any kind of maybe, hey, I need a website. Hey, where do I get this? Hey, I have, um, like the jewelry designer literally was like, hey, I got this text notice. What does it mean? Because there might be a language barrier, education level barrier, whatever. And then the second model is almost like a build a business model where, yes, we might curate the items, but we will be 100% loyal to you and we will like grow with you, right? And then we might even design things with you. And so that's what actually happened with the clothing, which is what you might have seen on TikTok
Yeah.
or what has gone viral. When we started working with them, they were like, yeah, we can't do a consignment model. That's crazy. They didn't say that's crazy, but it's probably what they thought. And so we went from buying from them at a wholesale model that they set their prices. I did not haggle. I was like, what do you think is fair? And then it went from that to us going viral on TikTok to me having a conversation with them and saying, look, we don't have the capital to buy thousands of pieces. However, we can run this model this way and we can figure it out. They accepted, and then we were able to help them double their team of artisans in Mexico. And so we have those two models that have slowly evolved into one. You simply provide your products to us and we sell them on consignment. And the other one, yeah, which is more of build a business where we go in and we pay upfront whatever fee you want us to pay for your products. And then we, continue to support you in whatever you might need. So we do have those two different models. But at the end of the day, we do try to keep it very limited. Try not to create competition because we do have people messaging us like, hey, can we join? Hey, can we do this? And it's not that we don't want to, it's just that it would not be beneficial if we accept everybody that wants to join, because then nobody really gets to feel the difference of the purchases that are being made.
Hmm.
And then we can't really provide all the attention that we wish we could. Even now, like, gosh, I wish we could have like account managers for the different artisans that we work with, because there's so many needs that they have that we're like, we can help you with whatever's pressing, but I can't actually sit with you all the time. But it can be anything from like, hey, I can send you all my email templates. Hey, I can teach you how I did my TikToks. This is how to run social media. All these things are very important to a business and business development, and we're more than happy to sit down with them and have these conversations. And when we first started managing their accounts, like we were literally like in the trenches with them. And so that's how slowly we've been able to evolve. And then future goals are to do so much more with it. But right now it's just a matter of building capital and finding the right people to help us grow, because I don't know, you know, what we're, I don't know the ins and outs of business development, and I'm learning, and so is my sister learning at the same time as we like are trying to get to the next level.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I feel like I live like at least 3 months ahead of what I'm living. Like I'm already planning for Valentine's Day and where our business is going to be for quarter one and quarter two of next year. So it's a really strange and very quick way to feel burnt out all the time, even though we love what we do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, what I think kind of makes a difference between us and some other collectives is that we don't just receive these items and then turn around. We bring everyone to the table and we sit with them. And I mean, my sister has helped like one or two people apply for their LLC. Like it's like a whole team. We don't want to just get their goods and then sell it and then tell people about it. It's like we want them to surpass us. And if they do, that's great. Like if they want to stay with us, amazing. If they want to leave, okay. Like we just want our people to thrive. So I think that that's what kind of makes us different. I don't know anyone else that's doing it, and if they are,
Yeah.
amazing.
Really, and to make
But
a
that
dent. Because I think we oftentimes see our cultural products being just resold. Um, and it's great that our culture is being shared and that, we can source it from places and buy it, but really developing relationships with a community, with a business, and seeing it through for, a year, 2 years, 3 years. We're on probably second year and a half. Like, we've been with the same people from the beginning. Seeing them thrive, it's just making an impact. It's kind of crazy looking back, and at the end of the year when we do finances, being like, wow, really? Is that how much like went to this community or to these families? Or it's really cool, instead of feeling like, okay, well, yeah, like we made money and we sold a lot of cool items, but it went to like 1,000 different people or 100 different people.
Yeah, all these
um
communities are being served as well and making
mhm,
money. When
mhm,
one rises, we all rise, right?
yeah. Mhm.
Oh my god, that is so cool. I think where do you guys want to see this? Where do you want to see what? Or actually, before you answer that question, what has been? I feel like you kind of answered it, but what has been the biggest challenge as you've grown this? Because I feel like you've kind of answered it in regards to like timing and not being able to help everybody as much as you want. But is there anything else that you wish, like, you're just that has just been really challenging as you guys have grown, as you started, as you've grown, as you continue to grow?
um the way I describe it is like we're building a puzzle, but we don't have the puzzle guide. And I think that's what's most challenging, that you can be a master puzzle maker, but if you don't know what the picture looks like, it's really hard to build that puzzle. So I think it's my sister and I are
That's a
good at
good
looking.
analogy.
I, After a couple of therapy sessions, I figured it out. I figured what the feeling felt like, because I was like, oh my God, anxiety, being frantic. And I was like, oh, this is why. Um, but I think my sister are really good at being like, okay, this puzzle piece matches with this puzzle piece. But then when you look, you take a step back, it's like, oh shoot, but like, what's next? Where's the other, where's the rest of it? And that's probably what's been difficult. And I think it's what comes with the the identity experience of being first generation, not having anyone in our immediate circle who's a business owner or who has ever been a business owner. Um, and like, what does that look like? So I didn't know I had to be worried about all these things, and then you're like, oh shoot, they're all important. Where do I focus my time? So I think that that's probably been the biggest challenge, like not having paralysis by analysis, because you have all these shifting parts, and really all I want to do is like to tap into my creative part, and like do that and make TikTok videos and create content. And that's been the most challenging. And people are like, oh yeah, well then just outsource the stuff you don't want to do. Okay, cool. Where's the money gonna come from? Because I have to also figure out, do we want to use that money for that, or do we want more inventory because our website traffic is increasing? So like kind of making all these decisions, figuring out the puzzle pieces, um, and then talking through with my sister, and like we almost have to make blindly educated decisions all the time, every day, even for the holiday season. What are we going to have? What are we not going to have? How many emails? How many campaigns? How should we do it? Should we not do it? Will we be left, like, and it's the stuff that just kind of, it's scary, quite honestly, because now at this point it's like, oh, it's not it's not like you're not paying $100. You're like, you're gambling a couple $1,000s, and you're like, do I hire this person? Do I not hire? And but from it all, I think in the same way that we show up authentically in our videos and in our content and like the stuff we sell, I've just learned to be the same way when I communicate with everyone. I think this week we were on the fence of, not on the fence, but I had to make a decision. And I talked to my sister about like bringing someone on board. And I told the person, I was like, listen, I just haven't gotten back to you because I'm scared. But like, let's do this. But just so you know, I'm like scared, because this is a lot of money for us, or this is very meaningful for us. And I think it allows them to be like, okay, this is not someone that is just has this laying around, you know?
Yeah.
But
Can
that's
I just say
probably the
thank you
biggest
for
challenge.
saying that? Because I think
Yeah,
so often, that's why I was asking, like, what challenges and what, because I feel like so often we talk about, oh, here you are, you're now so successful and blah, blah, blah. And we forget to
no,
talk about the struggles. And
yeah,
that's why I asked, like, where, like, in regards to how it was growing up and everything, because
yeah,
I think that's so important for people to hear, because so many people can relate to it and they feel
yeah,
like, how do I get from here to here? I don't know how
yeah,
to do that. And to hear other people saying, I struggle with this, I struggle with my identity, I struggle with, like, we struggle with hiring somebody because we were scared, like, all of those things are
yeah,
so, so important. So just, I want to make sure I just thank you for sharing that, because
yeah.
it is really, really important that we share it. Where do you guys see, where do you want to be, and where do you see Cadena Collective going, and where do you want to be?
Um, I mean, I would love to grow the marketplace. I think my sister and I have set this to be a much larger marketplace than what it currently is. It's just a matter of logistics and capital, and finding the right people to help us, because yeah, I think the opportunities are endless for the marketplace, and to provide more curated items like the ones we have, and to have, whatever capacity people want to work with us, um, to be able to really make a difference and change the narrative of handmade products that are handmade in Mexico or made in the US, um, but with a Mexican, leaning into the Mexican culture. Because we get the comments all the time, like, okay, but your ornaments, they're $20, but I can find them for $3. We sure did not pay $3. And sometimes I find myself getting defensive because it's like, but like, we're going, we're like, sometimes we're even giving in a little more because it's worth it to us to pay more
Mm,
for someone's livelihood that they might be getting haggled somewhere else.
yeah.
In no way are we saviors or trying to save anyone, but the dignity of work is really important to
It's
us.
like having a microwave dinner versus a homemade meal.
Like,
What are you gonna enjoy, and what's gonna, I mean,
yeah,
we're such a microwave society, and that's where I got that little analogy, because I feel like we want to just get what we want when we want it, how we want it,
yeah,
like that, without
yeah,
any work. And we forget that there's people behind these things. We
yeah,
forget that
a
they're,
1000%.
yeah. I think I've personally have tried, and it's not 100%, but I've personally tried to get away from buying from big box stuff and everything.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I'm getting like detergent or toilet paper, that's
Yeah,
different, right? But as far as like things that I wear, um I try to be more mindful
yeah,
for certain things. If it's sweats, I'm like, I'm wearing sweats, whatever.
yeah.
But
Although
like,
some of these businesses, Viva La Bonita,
All for
JZD,
Ramon.
they all
okay,
for
well, I'm gonna
Ramon.
look at everything, because
You need to
I
get
have
these
not gone through
sweats.
your whole. I have not gone through your whole site
So
because there's so many things.
they're not on our site, but they're businesses that
Yeah, they're
we've met
separate
over time, and they
that we
all have
love.
like amazing things.
Oh, okay. Well, you're gonna have to
Um,
send me. You're gonna have
And
to
yeah,
remind me and send it to me
they're
so I
all
can
women
look.
owned too.
yeah,
Like
Love, love.
amazing. Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
want to be.
that's the other thing, about these businesses, that if we don't do it, if they don't do it, Anthropology is going to come in and do it, and
Yeah,
not hand stitch the items. They're going to embroider by machine or whatever it is, right? So it's time that we step up to the plate, and we know there's a need for it. We know the purchasing power of Latinos in the US is so powerful. And
absolutely.
so, it's not only time that we stop thinking about our products as being cheap just because the cost of living is so much cheaper in Mexico, but that we also step up to the plate in business ownership, because we know the product, we know the stories, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it, instead of others who who come and just think it's pretty.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference between sharing culture and being exploitative.
1,000%. Hmm.
I want to be respectful of your time, and I appreciate everything that you guys have shared, but I want to also give you the opportunity to share anything that maybe I haven't asked, or maybe you want to make sure that um, you get in because maybe I haven't thought of it or anything. So, is there anything else that you guys want to add? And then I want to make sure that people know your social and your website and everything before we wrap up.
Mm.
Did I
Uh,
really dig in?
you did. You did. I would say that um, there's so many lessons that this has taught us, and one of them is that, like I previously mentioned, um, there's no set uh, like what's the word? There's no rule book really. Like yes, we grew up with a lot of traditional values, but when it comes to your life, like I'm 32. I got married. I eloped, by the way. I didn't do the traditional Catholic. I have broken so many quote unquote rules, uh, and I'm still alive, and it's okay. I think that that is also said for someone who wants to start a business or who wants to start a new path. My sister and I left careers at probably very pivotal points in our lives, um, and we left, and we were fear, and sometimes you have to lean into that fear, and I think you just need to go for it sometimes. And I think a lot of
Hmm.
people are starting to do that since COVID. I've seen the numbers, but some people are still just swimming and are paralyzed by it. And sometimes you just have to face it and jump in with both
Hmm.
feet. Um, because for my sister and I, it's worked out so far, and we're still making decisions that are, causing a little bit of anxiety, but
A little bit.
it's been amazing. A lot of
A,
it.
a lot of anxiety. I
But
think
if
we
you
talked
do
about.
it with heart, it's gonna be okay. And we're doing it with a good intention, and for it's coming out of a place of love. And I don't think that that's ever gonna misguide you. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think something that like just really like I was really thinking about as my sister was describing her experience growing up in not feeling Mexican enough, and then me sharing my experience about like the way I was seen. Um, uh, all I could think to myself is like, well, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So
Right?
embrace yourself and embrace your culture, and lean into that, and you'll find some answers there. So that's really all I could think about for the rest of
But
the
it's
conversation.
true. It's so
Hmm.
true. Um, so let people know how they can find you. Your website is cadenacollective.com, which will also be in the
Yes.
show notes, and let people know how they can find you on social media and the various social medias you have.
Yeah, it's Cadena at Cadena Collective for everything except Twitter because they don't have enough characters. So it's Cadena Collective, but instead of the full word collective, it's COLL and then TV. So I shortened it for collective.
We'll make sure that all of those are in the show
Yeah.
notes as well. And Alejandra is always on TikTok with the latest, like showing off her latest
I'm
outfits.
trying. I'm trying. And we would love to part of our growing pains is figuring out getting more people to try on the clothing and wear it. So, if we can do a call out for some plus size models to get some of the clothing, we'd be happy to send y'all some and do some videos with us. I would love that. Just because the clothing does look beautiful on everybody. It's just for timing and budget reasons, it's easy for me to wear something and then put it on the camera,
Yeah.
you know, but I would love to show what all of our products show on different body types.
Yes, I think that's always really important. So
Mhm.
you guys make sure to follow them, go to their website, order some stuff, reach out to them. I wasn't
Yeah,
afraid to reach out. The answer is always no if you don't ask the question, right? And here
exactly.
we are, and I got to hear your story. So until
Exactly.
next time, mi gente, saludos.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.